The sky turned dark at noon. Stood at the observation window of the orbital defense station, her coffee growing cold in her hands. She had seen many things in her 5 years of military service, but nothing like this. 3,000 alien warships filled the space above Earth, blocking out the sun like a metal curtain. The ships were massive. Each one was bigger than any vessel humanity had ever built. They hung in the void with the patience of predators who knew their prey had nowhere to run. Red lights blinked along their hulls. Weapon ports glowed with terrible energy. His hands did not shake. She had trained herself to stay calm in crisis, but inside her heart beat like a war drum. "Lieutenant," called her commanding officer. "Emergency broadcast incoming. All channels." She walked to the main screen. Around her, dozens of officers stopped their work. The entire station fell silent as the transmission began. The alien who appeared on screen was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 eyes that burned like hot coals. He wore armor made of black metal covered with strange symbols. When he spoke, his voice was deep and cold. "People of Earth," the alien said, "I am Emperor of the Galactic Hegemony. Your world has been chosen for integration into our empire. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. Your military will lay down its weapons. Your leaders will submit to our rule. Your resources will become our property." The Emperor paused. His 4 eyes seemed to look directly at every human watching. "If you refuse, we will burn your cities to ash. We will boil your oceans. We will turn your green world into a dead rock. This is not a threat. This is a promise. You cannot fight us. You cannot hide from us. You can only obey or die." The transmission ended. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then chaos erupted. Officers shouted into communicators. Alarms began to wail. Emergency protocols activated across the station. Did not move. She stared at the screen, thinking of her mother back on Earth, of her little brother starting university next month, of all the billions of people who had just received a death sentence. She also thought of her father, the father she believed had died 15 years ago in the colony wars, the father whose grave she visited every year on the anniversary of his death. 6 hours later, received orders she never expected. She was to report to a classified briefing at the highest security level. When she arrived at the underground bunker beneath Seoul, she found herself in a room with General and President herself. General was an old man with white hair and tired eyes. He had fought in 3 wars and carried the scars to prove it. President was younger, a woman with sharp features and sharper intelligence. She had united Earth's governments in the face of alien contact 10 years ago. "Sit down, Lieutenant," President said. "What I am about to tell you is known by less than 50 people on Earth." Sat, her mind raced with possibilities, but nothing prepared her for what came next. "The hegemony believes we have 47 warships," the President continued. "They are correct. Our official fleet is small and weak compared to theirs, but our official fleet is not our only fleet." She pressed a button. A holographic display appeared, showing a region of space far from Earth, the belt, at the edge of the solar system. Points of light appeared, hundreds of them. 20 years ago, when we first detected the hegemony's expansion toward our region of space, we began a secret project. We built shipyards in the asteroid belt. We designed new weapons. We recruited volunteers who were willing to disappear to die officially, so they could serve in secret. Blood ran cold. She was beginning to understand. "We call it the Dark Fleet," President said. 700 warships, built with one purpose, to destroy any enemy who threatens Earth. For 2 decades, these ships have waited in the darkness. Their crews have sacrificed everything, their names, their families, their very existence, for this moment. General spoke next. His voice was rough with emotion. "The Dark Fleet is commanded by Admiral. He was officially killed in action during the colony wars. In reality, he has spent 15 years building and training our secret armada. felt the world tilt around her. Her father's name was her father who had died, who she thought had died when she was 12 years old. "You understand now," President said softly. "Admiral is your father, and we need you to help us contact him." Tears burned in her eyes, but she forced them back. She was a soldier. She would not cry, not now. "My father is alive," she whispered. It was not a question. "Yes, and in 72 hours he will lead the Dark Fleet against the hegemony. But we need someone to coordinate between his forces and our defense fleet. Someone he trusts absolutely. Someone who can inspire our people with proof that hope is not lost." Her legs felt weak, but her voice was strong. "What do you need me to do?" President smiled for the first time. "First, we need you to send a message to your father. Then, we need you to volunteer for a mission that may cost you your life." Above them, the alien fleet waited with deadly patience. Emperor sat on his throne, confident in his victory. He had conquered 100 worlds. He had crushed species far older and more advanced than humanity. These primitive creatures with their tiny fleet would be no different. He did not know about the ghosts hiding in the darkness at the edge of the solar system. He did not know that humanity had learned long ago to never show its full strength to enemies. He did not know that the people of Earth had a saying, "Hope for the best, prepare for the worst." And the worst was exactly what the Dark Fleet was designed to deliver. Composed her message with trembling fingers. She chose words she never thought she would say again. "Father, I know you're out there. I know what you've sacrificed. Earth needs you now. I need you now. It's time to come home." She pressed send. Somewhere in the frozen darkness of the outer solar system, a man who had been dead for 15 years received word that his daughter still believed in him. And the clock continued to tick. 72 hours until the end of the world, or the beginning of humanity's greatest victory. The belt was cold and empty, a frozen wasteland at the edge of the solar system where sunlight was just another star among millions. Nothing lived here. Nothing moved here. At least, that was what the rest of the galaxy believed. Admiral stood on the bridge of the Silent Vengeance, reading his daughter's message for the 10th time. His hands were steady. They had to be, after 15 years of waiting, but his heart ached with emotions he had buried long ago. Had been 12 when he left, a little girl with bright eyes and her mother's smile. Now she was a lieutenant in Earth's defense forces. Now she was asking him to come home. "Admiral," said Lieutenant, his second in command, "the activation code has been confirmed. Command wants us to begin preparations." Closed the message and turned to face his crew. The bridge of the Silent Vengeance was filled with men and women who had given up everything. They had no names in any official record. Their families believed them dead. They had lived in this frozen darkness for years, training, waiting, preparing for a battle they hoped would never come. Now it had come. "Signal the fleet," ordered. "Wake them all up." Across the belt, lights began to flicker. Ships that had floated in powered-down silence came alive one by one. Engine cores hummed with energy. Weapon systems ran through activation sequences. Communication arrays linked together into a network spanning millions of kilometers. 700 warships, the largest secret military force in human history, and every single crew member had volunteered to become a ghost. Watched the fleet's status display with fierce satisfaction. She had her own reasons for being here. 20 years ago, the hegemony had the Mars colonies where her family lived. Pacification in hegemony terms meant extermination. Her parents, her brothers, her baby sister, all gone in a single day of fire and death. She had been 16 then, visiting Earth on a school trip. She came home to find graves instead of family. The hegemony called it necessary population adjustment. The galaxy accepted it as normal. Had sworn that one day she would make them pay. The Dark Fleet was her chance. "All ships reporting ready," she announced. 700 vessels, fully armed, fully crewed. "We are at your command, Admiral." Nodded. He pressed a button on his command chair, opening a channel to every ship in the fleet. "Brothers and sisters of the Dark Fleet," he began. His voice was calm and strong. "For 20 years we have been ghosts. We have watched from the shadows as our face threats alone. We have buried our names, our families, our very existence. We have lived in silence and darkness, away from everyone we love." He paused, letting his words sink in. "We did this because we understood something that the galaxy has forgotten. We understood that peace is precious, but peace without strength is just delayed surrender. We built this fleet not because we wanted war, but because we knew that one day war would find us anyway." On every ship, crew members stopped their work to listen. Many had tears in their eyes. They had waited so long for this moment. "That day has come," continued. "The hegemony thinks humanity is weak. They think our small fleet and our single world make us easy prey. They have given Earth 72 hours to surrender or die. They believe we have no choice." His voice grew harder, colder. "They are wrong. Today the ghosts rise. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten our home. Today we remind the universe that humanity does not surrender. Humanity does not kneel. Humanity fights." He raised his fist. "All ships prepare for hyperspace jump. We ride for Earth. We ride for our families. We ride for everyone who ever believed that the darkness would protect us. It's time to bring that darkness to our enemies." The fleet erupted in cheers. On 700 ships, crews rushed to their battle stations. Engineers pushed engines to full power. Gunners loaded weapons that had waited years to be fired. Pilots plotted jump coordinates that would take them home. Meanwhile, above Earth, the hegemony fleet grew impatient. Supreme Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the planet rotate slowly below. It was a beautiful world, he admitted. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds swirling over everything. It would be a shame to destroy it. But he would destroy it if necessary. The hegemony did not make empty threats. "Supreme Commander," called one of his officers, "Earth's defense fleet is forming a defensive line around the planet. 47 vessels." Laughed. The sound was harsh and cruel. 47 ships against 3,000. These humans are either very brave or very stupid. "Perhaps both, Commander." "It doesn't matter. They have 30 hours left to surrender. If they don't, we will crush them like insects." But even as he spoke, something strange appeared on the edge of his sensors. A flicker of energy far out in the system. Anomalous readings that made no sense. "What is that?" he demanded. His sensor officer studied the data with growing confusion. "Unknown, Commander. The readings suggest a large number of objects, but there's nothing out there. It must be a sensor malfunction." Frowned. He had conquered many worlds and he had learned to trust his instincts. Something felt wrong, but when he looked at the human fleet, so small, so pitiful, he pushed his doubts aside. "Fix the sensors," he ordered, "and prepare for attack. I want to be ready to move the moment their deadline expires." Far away, in the darkness between worlds, the Dark Fleet finished its preparations. Admiral sat alone in his quarters, looking at an old photograph. It showed him with his wife and daughter, 15 years ago, before he became a ghost. Had been so small then, so full of life and laughter. Now she was a soldier, ready to fight and die for Earth. "I'm coming, daughter," he whispered to the photograph. "I'm coming home." He stood, put on his admiral's coat, and walked to the bridge. The silent vengeance hummed with power around him. His crew watched with respect and determination. "All ships," commanded, "begin hyperspace jump." 700 warships tore holes in reality and vanished into the void. The ghosts were coming home, and they were bringing hell with them, checked her weapon for the 3rd time. The plasma rifle was fully charged. Her combat suit was sealed. Her heart was steady. In 10 minutes, she would launch on a mission that almost certainly meant her death. The briefing had been short. A small team would approach the hegemony flagship in a stealth shuttle. They would board the vessel, fight their way to the shield generator and destroy it. With its shields down, the flagship would be vulnerable to attack. The mission had maybe a 15% chance of success. The survival rate was even lower. Had volunteered anyway. "Lieutenant," Sergeant approached her. He was a large man with scars covering half his face, burns from a plasma explosion during the underground resistance. He had fought the hegemony in secret for 10 years before joining the military officially. "The team is ready." Looked at her squad. 12 soldiers, all volunteers. Specialist, the young hacker who could crack any computer system, was running final checks on her equipment. The others were loading weapons, saying quiet prayers, or simply staring at nothing. They all knew the odds. They were going anyway. "Listen up," called. The squad gathered around her. "In a few minutes we're going to board an alien warship and blow up their shields. Most of us probably won't come back. I won't lie to you about that." Nobody looked away. Nobody showed fear. "But here's what I know," continued. "Right now, 7 billion people on Earth are looking up at those ships, wondering if they're going to die. Children are crying. Parents are hugging their families. Old people are remembering all the wars they survived, wondering if this is finally the end." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We can give them hope. We can show them that humanity doesn't surrender. We can prove that even against impossible odds, there are people willing to fight. That's why we're doing this. Not because we want to die, but because some things are worth dying for." She raised her fist. "For Earth." "For Earth," the squad roared back. They loaded into the stealth shuttle. The small craft detached from the orbital station and began its silent approach toward the hegemony flagship. Behind them, Earth's defense fleet formed its battle line, 47 ships against 3,000. General stood on the bridge of the carrier Soul's Pride. He was too old for this, he thought. Too tired, but there was nobody else. "All ships," he broadcast to the fleet. "This is General. In a few minutes we will engage the enemy. Our numbers are small. Our weapons are outmatched. By every logical calculation, we cannot win." He smiled grimly. "But logic doesn't know humans very well. Logic doesn't understand that we've been fighting impossible odds since we first climbed down from the trees. Logic doesn't know that our ancestors survived ice ages, plagues, and wars that should have ended us 100 times over." The fleet listened in silence. "Today, we fight not to win, but to buy time. Every minute we survive is a minute for our people to hope. Every ship we destroy is one less weapon pointed at our home. And if we're lucky, if we hold on long enough, help will come." He didn't mention the Dark Fleet. That secret was too important to risk. "All ships engage the enemy. Make them remember the name humanity." The battle began. Plasma fire lit up the void. Earth's ships charged forward, their smaller size making them harder to hit. The hegemony fleet responded with overwhelming firepower, but the human ships dodged and weaved like dancers. The destroyer's fury took out a hegemony cruiser with a perfectly aimed torpedo spread. The frigate's light rammed an enemy battleship's engine section, crippling it before being destroyed itself. Everywhere, humanity fought with desperate courage. But it wasn't enough. One by one, Earth's ships fell. The Soul's Pride took a direct hit to its port side, killing hundreds of crew members instantly. General kept fighting, even as fire spread through his ship. Above the battle, the hegemony flagship watched with contempt. Supreme Commander laughed at the humans' pathetic resistance. "Destroy them all," he ordered. "Leave no survivors." Then the Dark Fleet arrived. 700 warships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, appearing directly behind the hegemony's main force. The aliens had no warning. One moment, empty space. The next, an armada. Admiral's voice cut through all frequencies. "This is Admiral of the Earth Dark Fleet. You came to our home uninvited. You threatened our families. You demanded our surrender." The Silent Vengeance opened fire. Its main guns, designed specifically to penetrate hegemony armor, tore through 3 enemy ships in a single volley. Here is our answer. The Dark Fleet attacked like wolves among sheep. The hegemony formation shattered as ships tried to turn and face the new threat. But the Dark Fleet's vessels were faster, their weapons more advanced, their tactics perfect. Stared at his tactical display in shock. Where did these ships come from? He demanded. Our intelligence said humans had 50 ships at most. Your intelligence, replied on the open channel, was exactly what we wanted you to believe. Meanwhile, shuttle reached the flagship. The battle's chaos provided perfect cover. They docked at an emergency airlock and breached the hull. Alien corridors stretched before them, dark and twisting. Red emergency lights pulsed. The ship shuddered as weapons fire struck its hull. Move fast, ordered. Lead us to the shield generator. They ran. Alien marines appeared, blocking their path. Plasma fire erupted in the narrow corridors. One of soldiers fell, then another. Took a hit to his shoulder but kept firing, his face twisted with pain and determination. Found a computer terminal and worked her magic. Shield generator is 3 levels down. I can guide us there. They pushed forward, leaving bodies behind, both human and alien. The corridors became a nightmare of smoke, screaming, and death, but they kept moving. They had to. Outside, the battle raged. The Dark Fleet was winning, but the hegemony flagship remained untouched, protected by shields that could withstand anything. Looked at her remaining team. 7 soldiers left out of 12, was bleeding badly, was pale with exhaustion. Almost there, she promised, almost there. They reached the shield generator room, and standing in front of it, waiting for them, was Supreme Commander himself. The alien drew an energy blade that hummed with deadly power. His 4 eyes burned with fury. You think you can defeat me, he growled. 1 human female against the Supreme Commander of the hegemony. Activated her combat suit's full power mode. The armor hummed around her, enhancing her strength 10 times over. Not think, she said, no. She charged, was fast, faster than any creature that size should be. His energy blade whistled through the air, missing's head by centimeters. She rolled aside, came up firing, but her plasma bolt splashed harmlessly against his personal shield. Pathetic, the alien snarled. Your species is nothing but insects. Clever insects, perhaps, but insects nonetheless. He swung again, blocked with her armored forearm, feeling the impact shake her entire body. Her combat suit was strong, but was stronger, much stronger. Behind her, tried to help. He fired its back, but the shots did nothing. The Supreme Commander didn't even turn around. Deal with the others, commanded. More alien soldiers poured into the room through side doors. The remaining team was suddenly fighting for survival. Screamed as a plasma bolt grazed her leg. Threw himself in front of her, taking another hit to his chest. His armor was mostly gone now, melted and broken, but he kept fighting. He always kept fighting. Faced alone, the alien was toying with her, she realized. He could have killed her already, but he wanted to enjoy this. He wanted to break her spirit before taking her life. Your secret fleet surprised us, admitted, circling her slowly. I will give your species credit for that, but it changes nothing. We have thousands more ships, millions more soldiers. Even if you win today, we will return. We will always return. And eventually your little world will burn. Said nothing. She was watching his movements, looking for a pattern. Every warrior had habits, weaknesses, even aliens. There, when he swung from the right, he dropped his left shoulder slightly. A tiny opening, lasting less than a second. She needed to create that opening. You talk too much, she said. His eyes narrowed with anger. He attacked with full force, no longer playing. His blade came from the right, and his left shoulder dropped. Moved. Her combat suit pushed her faster than any unenhanced human could move. She ducked under the blade, stepped inside his guard and drove her own weapon, a simple combat knife designed to penetrate personal shields at close range, directly into his chest. The alien's 4 eyes went wide with shock. "How?" he gasped. "You thought size and strength were everything," said. "Humans learned a long time ago that brains beat muscles, every time." She twisted the knife, fell. The alien soldiers saw their supreme commander die. For a moment they froze. That moment was all's team needed, and the others cut them down without mercy. The room fell silent except for heavy breathing and the distant sounds of battle. Called, "Can you walk?" The young hacker limped forward, blood running down her leg but determination in her eyes. "I can do better than walk. Let me at that shield generator." They approached the massive machine that powered the flagship's defenses. It hummed with energy, a pillar of alien technology that had seemed unbreakable. Fingers flew across her portable computer. "The encryption is complex, but I can see the structure. Give me 2 minutes." "We might not have 2 minutes," said. He was leaning against a wall, barely standing. "More soldiers will come soon." "Then we hold them," replied. She picked up's energy blade. The weapon felt strange in her hands, but it worked well enough. "Everyone get ready." The doors burst open. Alien soldiers flooded in, dozens of them, weapons blazing. His team fought like demons. They were outnumbered, running on nothing but willpower and the knowledge that billions of lives depended on them. Soldiers fell on both sides, took a hit to her side that burned through her armor, was down, unconscious or dead, she couldn't tell. Only 3 of her original 12 remained standing. "Almost there," shouted. 10 more seconds." An alien raised his weapon, aiming directly at, threw herself forward, tackling the soldier. They crashed to the ground, struggling. The alien was stronger, pressing his weapon toward her face. A plasma bolt killed him. One of her remaining soldiers had saved her. Dunn screamed, "Shields are down." Grabbed her communicator. "Admiral, this is Lieutenant. The flagship's shields are down. Repeat, shields are down." On the silent Vengeance, Admiral received the message. His daughter's voice, alive, victorious, was the most beautiful sound he had ever heard. "All ships," he commanded, his voice like steel, "concentrate fire on the enemy flagship. Everything we have, now." The Dark Fleet turned as one. 700 warships pointed their weapons at the hegemony flagship. Guns that had waited 20 years to fire found their target. Fire. The flagship died in fire and light. Explosions ripped through its hull from end to end. Secondary blasts tore apart decks and compartments. The massive vessel broke into pieces, each piece burning as it tumbled through space. Inside grabbed its unconscious body. "Everyone to the shuttle, move." They ran. The corridors around them were collapsing, fire everywhere, the ship screaming as it died. Half carried, half dragged while limped beside her. The 2 other survivors led the way, shooting through locked doors and climbing over wreckage. They reached their shuttle somehow. Didn't remember the details later, just running, carrying, refusing to stop. They piled inside as the flagship's reactor went critical. The shuttle launched seconds before the final explosion. The blast wave caught them, spinning the small craft wildly, but the pilot managed to stabilize. Behind them, the hegemony flagship became a cloud of expanding debris. "This is Lieutenant," she broadcast, her voice exhausted but proud. "Boarding team has escaped. The flagship is destroyed. Repeat, the flagship is destroyed." Across the battlefield, human crews cheered. The hegemony fleet, seeing their flagship explode and their supreme commander dead, fell into chaos. Ships began to retreat, to surrender, or simply to sit motionless as their commanders tried to understand what had happened. The Dark Fleet did not let them escape. Admiral was thorough. Every ship that tried to run was caught. Every ship that fought was destroyed. Only those who surrendered were spared. The battle was over. Humanity had won. slumped in her seat, too tired to move. Beside her was crying, tears of relief and pain and joy all mixed together. In the back, medics were working on. He was alive, they said. Barely, but alive. "Lieutenant," a voice came through the communicator. "This is the Silent Vengeance. We're bringing you aboard. Your father wants to see you." Your father closed her eyes. After 15 years, she was finally going to see him again. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She did both. The shuttle docked with the Silent Vengeance in silence, stood slowly, her body aching from 100 small injuries, needed help walking and was carried out on a stretcher, still unconscious but stable. The hangar bay was full of crew members. They had lined up on both sides, creating a path. As stepped off the shuttle, they began to salute, hundreds of fists raised in honor. But barely noticed them. Her eyes were fixed on the man standing at the end of the path. Admiral looked older than she remembered. His hair had turned gray. Deep lines marked his face, but his eyes were the same, warm and kind and full of love. She walked toward him. Her steps were slow at first, then faster. By the end, she was running. They embraced in the middle of the hangar bay, surrounded by hundreds of witnesses. Held his daughter tight, his shoulders shaking with emotions held back for 15 years. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry I left you." Couldn't speak. Tears streamed down her face, washing away the blood and smoke. She just held on, afraid that if she let go, he would disappear again. "You came back," she finally managed. "That's all that matters, you came back." Around them, the crew pretended not to watch, but many wiped their own eyes. Everyone in the dark fleet had left someone behind. Seeing their admiral reunited with his daughter gave them hope that someday they might see their families too. The moment was brief. There was still work to be done. Gently released his daughter and looked at the shuttle behind her. "Your team?" he asked. 5 dead, 4 wounded, including Sergeant. Specialist managed to hack their shields. His voice became professional again, but she couldn't stop smiling. "Mission accomplished, Admiral." Nodded with pride. "Your actions saved Earth. History will remember what you did today." The next few hours were chaos. The hegemony fleet had been broken, but thousands of alien survivors needed to be processed. Damaged ships, both human and alien, drifted through space. Rescue operations launched in every direction. General survived. The soul's pride had been badly damaged, but the old man refused to die. He was evacuated to a medical ship, already demanding reports on the battle while doctors tried to treat his wounds. On Earth, people watched the battle's footage in stunned disbelief. The alien fleet that had blocked out the sun was now debris and prisoners. Ships they had never known existed had appeared from nowhere to save them. Questions exploded across every news channel. Where had this fleet come from? Who was Admiral? What other secrets had their government been hiding? President addressed the world from the United Nations headquarters. "Citizens of Earth," she began, "today we faced extinction. An alien empire came to our home, demanded our surrender, and promised to destroy us if we refused. They believed we were weak. They believed we had no choice." She paused, her eyes scanning the cameras. They were wrong. 20 years ago, when we first learned of the threats beyond our world, we began preparing. We built a secret fleet. We trained an army of volunteers willing to sacrifice everything. We kept this secret not to deceive our own people, but to deceive our enemies. Images appeared behind her. The dark fleet in formation, Admiral on his bridge, his team fighting through alien corridors. These men and women gave up their names, their families, their lives, all to protect Earth. They became ghosts so that the rest of us could live in peace. Today, those ghosts saved us all. The president's voice hardened. But let me be clear to anyone else in the galaxy who might be watching. Today's victory was not luck. It was not a fluke. It was the result of 20 years of preparation by a species that refuses to surrender. Humanity does not threaten anyone. We do not seek conquest or empire, but we will defend our home to the last breath of the last human being." She leaned forward. "So consider this a warning. Leave us in peace, and we will be the best friends you ever had. Threaten our home, and you will face the full power of a species that has fought its way out of darkness since the beginning of time. The choice is yours." The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, alien civilizations watched with new respect and new fear. Weeks passed. The hegemony from human space, their emperor offering apologies and promises of peace. Other species sent diplomatic missions, not with demands but with offers of alliance. Humanity was no longer seen as weak prey. Humanity was seen as equals. The Dark Fleet was officially revealed. Its surviving crews were honored as heroes. Many were reunited with families who had believed them dead for years. There were tears and laughter and healing that would take generations to complete. Admiral received the highest military honors any human had ever earned. He accepted them quietly, more interested in rebuilding Earth's defenses than in celebrations. The hegemony had been defeated, but they were not destroyed. Other threats existed in the galaxy. Humanity needed to be ready. Was promoted to captain. She was assigned to the Silent Vengeance as her father's executive officer. Working together, they began planning for the future, a future where humanity would never be caught unprepared again. Sergeant recovered slowly. The wounds he had suffered would have killed a lesser man, but was too stubborn to die. He was promoted to lieutenant and given command of a special forces unit. Specialist became the head of military intelligence, using her skills to ensure that humanity would always know its enemies' secrets before those enemies knew their own. One evening, months after the battle, and stood together on the observation deck of the Silent Vengeance. Earth hung in the viewport before them, blue and green and perfect. "What happens now?" asked. Smiled. It was a real smile, the kind she remembered from childhood. "Now we stop hiding. For 20 years I built a fleet in secret because I believed humanity wasn't ready to face the galaxy openly. But you and your generation proved me wrong. You're not afraid of the darkness out there. You're ready to walk into it with your eyes open." He put his hand on her shoulder. "My generation built the tools for survival. Your generation will build something greater. A future where humanity doesn't just survive, it thrives. Where we explore not because we're running from threats but because we're curious about what's out there. Where our children grow up seeing the stars as friends, not enemies." Looked at Earth, thinking about everyone she loved down there. Her mother, her brother, the billions of people going about their lives, safe because of what her father's generation had sacrificed. "We won't let you down," she said. "I know you won't," squeezed her shoulder. "You already proved that." They stood in silence, watching their home world turn slowly in the void. Outside, the stars waited, full of danger, yes, but also full of possibility. Humanity had faced the darkness and won. Now it was time to bring light. Far away, in capitals across the galaxy, alien leaders studied the footage of the battle. They saw a species that had hidden its true strength for 20 years. A species that could build 700 warships in secret. A species whose soldiers would board enemy flagships on suicide missions rather than surrender. They made careful notes in their records. They updated their threat assessments. And they decided, quietly and unanimously, that humanity was not a species to provoke. The ghosts had risen, the empire had fallen, and Earth, fragile, beautiful, stubborn Earth, remained free. Some lessons, after all, only needed to be taught once.